Well, it is a cloudy January morning here outside of Toronto, and I don't know when you'll be watching this, but for me, it is the first car review of 2023. And what a great car to start the year with. This is the 2023 Mercedes-Benz C300 4MATIC, and I'll spoil it for you. This car is really good. I did not realize that $60,000 cars could be this good. Also, some of you have commented that I talk too long at the beginning of these before I start driving. So you know what? You complain, I will listen. I'm going to talk less and drive more. But first, I got to read from my phone a little bit about the powertrain because it's hard to memorize, and we'll get going here. So up front is a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4 with mild hybrid drive. The 4MATIC denotes all-wheel drive, and the C300, unless it has an AMG badge on the back, only comes this way in terms of powertrain. Now that 2-liter engine makes 255 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, but it is coupled with a 48-volt mild hybrid system, basically a small electric motor that's on the back of the engine near the transmission, and it supplants the power delivery of the vehicle. It's not like a true hybrid like a Prius. It won't drive on electric power alone. You don't plug it in. It just gives you a little power boost where the gas engine is spooling up, blah, blah, blah. And that electric assist is 20 horsepower and 148 pound-feet of torque. Because those two systems are constantly phasing in and out, it's not like you just add those two numbers together to get total horsepower. Mild hybrid systems are a little complicated. All you need to know is that it works very smoothly. So enough talking from me. Let's put this car in drive, and I'll tell you more about it. So, the Mercedes-Benz C300 is the second smallest sedan that Mercedes will sell you. Of course, the smallest would be the A-Class, or the CLA. This is the smallest of the conventional Mercedes sedans, in that it has a longitudinal front engine, rear drive based chassis, even though it's all-wheel drive like the CLA would be. But that is
in order to use online functions of the voice system, please check your Mercedes Me settings.
And I was going to talk about this a little later, but because it has barged in, like all the other new Mercedes you will buy, if you say, "Hey Mercedes," it will say, "How can I help you?" And you can do basic functions like turning on the steering wheel heat or the seat heaters, or even you can say, "Hey, navigate me to my address, 365 Bloor Street East." You can do all those things through voice command, and it must be said, voice command in the Mercedes is very good, but that wasn't what I was talking about, Mercedes. Anyways, the C300 only comes mechanically one way, with that 2-liter turbo, mild hybrid, all-wheel drive, and a 9-speed automatic transmission. And all that is good for 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in exactly 6.0 seconds. So it's pretty quick. But just because this car is fast does not mean this is a performance car. And I think that's what a lot of people lose, is that this is not a sport sedan. Even though it is powerful and even though it does handle quite well, this drives like a small S-Class. It drives like a luxury car, not like a small M5. And the solidity of this car just so impressed me. Honestly, I recorded the doors opening and closing because the sound they make is so satisfying. And outside, I really think those AMG wheels are very choice. Now I want to talk about inside, and I want to talk about the interior of this car more than most other cars, because so much of what makes this car good is found in here, inside the car. First of all, I love the design. I like how you have this big tablet screen in the center. It kind of stands proud at the dash a little bit. It looks very premium. I like all these gauges, and I recorded it this morning because it's kind of hard to see when the sun's out. I love this mood lighting they have. You can change it to different colors. I love how they put it in the gauges. It reflects against the aluminum accents of the car. It looks very nice. In a car of this price range, you know, high 50s, low 60s, typically I've been in cars such as Audis, in which the basic touch points are very good. Very nice steering wheel, very nice seats. But where usually car makers mess up at this price point is they lose quality materials on places like the dashboard, the door tops, and the console. In this car, the C300, all of these, everything the front seat driver passenger could possibly touch feels premium. I have a nice soft leather padded door top. I have a leather padded dash. I have lots of nice stitching around here. There's nothing in here that says cheap. In fact, I even like the sound the vents make. Look at that. You adjust the vents. There's a nice click to them. Everything in here feels expensive. In fact, I can't believe this car costs $60,000. In fact, as tested, this car costs almost exactly $60,000. Base price of this car is $57K, give or take. Other things about this interior. This stereo is great. I don't even think it's the premium upgraded one. It's just genuinely a good stereo. And again, for this price point, it's a really good stereo. It is impressively good. I like the way the steering wheel feels. The seats are extremely comfortable. And like Mercedes typically does, the seat controls are on the door over here where you can actually see what you're doing. It's quite intuitive. Of course, the interior is not all, great. For example, I still haven't found where the steering wheel heat controls are. In fact, I have to do the "Hey Mercedes" prompt to do that. I do it via the voice command because I still can't find the button. And this carbon fiber aluminum look trim stuff on the console and the dash, not convincing, not at this price point. Luckily, you can change that. There's like 6 different trims you can have for this center console dress. I would just pick a different one. The carbon fiber is not great. It's not real carbon. One miss of the interior that I complain about this every time. There is no volume knob. There is in fact 3 different ways to adjust the volume in this car, and I don't like any of them. I have this capacitive touch thing on the steering wheel. I just kind of drag my thumb across it. I have a capacitive touch thing down here in this little touch bar, and I could do it through the touch screen. Or I could even say, "Hey Mercedes, raise or lower the volume." I just want a volume knob, or even a button. I would settle for a button at this point. The capacitive touch things, it only has a sweep of maybe that big. It's just not enough granularity, and I find it difficult to adjust to the exact level I would like. That said, I realize they did this because the rest of this interior looks extremely sleek and clean, and I do think aesthetically it is a triumph. However, I want a volume knob. Biggest complaint about this interior is the cup holders. I don't know why the Germans can't make cup holders. It doesn't seem to be the most difficult part of a car to make, but apparently it is, because when I put anything other than a tiny coffee cup in here, it wobbles and it rattles. It literally rattles these little plastic hinges. It drives me nuts. One of the worst cup holders I've ever tried to use. Rear seat room is, I would describe it as adequate. This is a compact car. It's not very big. But I did use it to take a trip 2 hours out of town with 4 people in it, and it did just fine. Personally, I find headroom is probably the tightest constraint, and up next would be knee room. If you have a tall person in the back, they kind of need to work in concert with the front seat to make sure that the seats are set just so. Because if you have a tall person in front, you're not going to get another tall person behind them. That's just kind of the price you're going to pay with a car of this size. But I will say that the rear seat has vents in it, which is good, and it has a good seating position for those that are sitting back there. It's certainly not a penalty box. You could use this car to transport 4 people in comfort, which you can't say about all compact luxury cars. And despite the compact size of the car, the trunk is extremely accommodating. You could fit a lot of stuff back there. Full-size suitcases, not going to be a problem. This car will absolutely handle an airport run. And now I want to talk about how it drives. This car is kind of sporty, but as you can see probably from these videos, it's very softly sprung and it's not really built to hustle. Even that said, it is fast. I'll put my foot down here to demonstrate. And away we go. But you also saw there's that hesitation between when you put your foot down and when something happens. And that's because this is a 9-speed transmission, typically cruising in around 5th gear, going as fast as I'm going, and it has to drop down a lot of gears to then go fast. I wish it was using the mild hybrid system to fill that gap, and it doesn't seem to do it. I have a little gauge here that tells me when it's power and when it's charging the mild hybrid system. And generally, it does work quite smooth. I typically see the hybrid assist come in when you're on the highway in top gear. You want to go a little faster, and it'll phase in the electric power so that you don't have to downshift a gear and burn extra gas. The part of the mild hybrid system I dislike the most is that it negatively affects my brake pedal feel. When I step on the brakes, the first bit of the pedal travel is recharge, and so it's not actually using the brakes. So what they have to do is kind of synthetically make a pedal feel how they think it should feel. And that is very complicated, and the result is that the brake pedal feels a little artificial depending on what the hybrid system is doing, charging or not, and it makes a brake pedal that is inconsistent pretty touchy and can be a little graceless to use sometimes. It can make you seem like a teenager learning to drive again. My final gripe about the driving experience, I promise, is that the front end is deceptively low. Like I said, this is not a performance car. This is not an AMG. But unless you are careful, the front end will scrape over every single gas station entrance and speed bump you find. You have to angle this thing up every driveway and baby it over every speed bump. And I just wasn't expecting that with a car that's not a performance car. So that is something to know. I believe the bottom of the air dam is somewhat sacrificial. It does seem like a smaller part that could be detached and replaced should you wear it out. But the noise it makes is not super graceful, and I notice it a lot. I have been trying to be careful, but it requires more care than I was expecting. But the best thing that this car does is just eat up the miles. It has 9 gears, and in 9th gear, it maybe does 1500 RPM at 120 kilometers an hour. This car is serene on the highway. The ride is super smooth, and even with these chunky winter tires on it, just dead quiet. It is such a comfortable car to take long distances, and because it's so small, it is a great car to drive around the city. It is a perfect mix to me of small size for maneuverability and refined suspension and steering for long distance comfort. You really can't do it all with this car. And a lot of times with luxury cars, it's difficult to answer the question, is it worth it? Because luxury is hard to define. A luxury car is, by definition, more expensive than a normal one. And what do you get for your extra money? Now, in some cars, it's really easy to say, hey, this car makes 600 horsepower. It costs a lot of money. It goes really fast. Well, there you go. There's your money. A car like this, I absolutely see where my money is going. It may not be a drag ship rocket, but there's so much of a premium experience here. I can absolutely see where your $60,000 has gone. The quality of the interior accoutrement, the quality of the interior design, how it's used, the quality of the suspension, the comfort that it returns you on the highway, and how fast and how smooth the mild hybrid system is. Simply put, it just feels premium, as it should. And honestly, it's the new standard that I'm going to be holding $60,000 luxury cars to, because I have driven plenty that have not been anywhere near this good. And some say it is important to start out the new year on a good foot. It sets a precedent for the year going forward. Well, I think it's equally important to start the year with a good car. And in this, I think I have found it, the Mercedes C300 4MATIC. It's just a good car. Wishing you a happy 2023 from Driving.ca. I'm Clayton Seams, and for more luxury car reviews and information, don't forget to check out our website at Driving.ca, where you will find my full written article on this car if you would like even more nerdy detail.